Now, controversial new laws affecting beneficiaries were passed in Parliament this week, and some changes will mean solo parents on the benefit will be required to find work when their youngest child turns 5. The government sees the reforms as a long-term plan to stop welfare dependency, while critics are calling it a vindictive attack on beneficiaries. A Stop the War on the Poor protest is planned today in Auckland. Action Against Poverty spokesperson Sue Bradford joins me now. Sue, thanks very much for coming in. Let's just outline the main concerns you have with this. Obviously, we just mentioned this mothers being forced back into work at the age of 5. Other concerns or concerns as a whole?
Our biggest concerns with this particular legislation are that all women who happen to have a baby on welfare will shortly be work tested, not when their youngest child is 5, but when their youngest child is 1 year old. In other words, they'll be pushed out to work when their baby is only 1. And we think that's a real misogynist attack on women and on our right to reproduce. Beyond that, there's also the new laws going to bring in work and income encouraging all women beneficiaries of childbearing age and their daughters, if they have childbearing age, to take long-term contraception. Again, unwarranted and unacceptable state interference in women's reproductive lives.
But they're not going to force it?
No, it's not going to be compulsory, but the trouble is it's the power imbalance at work and income means when your benefit is at stake and you have a work and income case manager telling you that they want you to go for an appointment to get long-term contraception, it is not a balanced relationship. We do not believe that the state should be involved in women's reproductive lives in this way, and nor should the state be saying to some women, you shall not breed, you shall not have babies. We value women and we value babies a lot more than that.
I don't think the state's trying to say you shall not breed.
Yeah, they are. Some of the comments of Paula Bennett lately.
But what the state is trying to do, though, is it is trying to change this train of welfare dependency, trying to make people more responsible for the amount of money which we're pouring into welfare dependency.
If the national government was serious about trying to get a lot of the people who are on welfare now off it, what they would be doing would be instituting full-on decent job creation programs to get the many unemployed people into work. That's where the focus should lie, not on harassing mothers with babies as young as 1 year old or sickness or invalids beneficiaries into work. The able-bodied, ready-to-work, unemployed should be the priority, and the government should be doing something serious about getting decent jobs for those people, doing work that needs to be done in our communities, like building state houses for the many homeless people we have now.
The government, of course, would argue they've created 20,000 jobs, and therefore...
I haven't seen any of those.
Now, let's talk about this, the one part of the law which has been passed, I mentioned in the intro there, of this getting mums back into the workforce when their youngest turns 5. I mean, that is a well-intentioned policy, is it not?
I don't see it as well-intentioned. I think that it's wonderful if work and income supports sole parents and other beneficiaries to get back into work at the time that's right for them. But we absolutely oppose this idea that somehow mothers with young children belong in the workforce, that's how things should be. We see that mothering
is that not the reality?
As a worthwhile job. Raising our children is actually, on your own is a really tough job. To do it well is very tough.
Absolutely agreed. But the reality is that...
a solo mother of young children being forced out to work is very different than a two-parent family with support systems around them somehow juggling work. It's a very different situation, and we would much rather see the government put its focus on creating jobs than on harassing and intimidating beneficiaries.
And again, they would argue that they've got their focus on both, but you know, you've got this vast majority of hard-working, tax-paying earners here, where both parents are out at work, or the single parents like Paula Bennett who've had to go and work their way into a position of security, and they would argue that we're working hard to try and provide. We don't have the choice. Therefore, let's try and encourage others to be able to do the same.
Certainly, let's try and encourage people who are out of work and need work now to get work, but for that to happen, how about creating the jobs for those people, and how about not targeting and making even more life even harder for people who are already in the most vulnerable position in this country, much less the children who will be impacted by this, by a mum forced out to work at $13.50 an hour. What's going to happen to her children after school? And as for the ones with babies, what's going to happen to them?
Valid concerns. Now, tell me about the picket very quickly. The details are...
We're picketing outside the National Party conference tomorrow, not today.
It's tomorrow, sorry, my mistake there.
Sunday at 11:30 tomorrow morning. John Key is speaking at 12. We want to give the National Party a message loud and clear. We do not accept these welfare reforms. Worst of all, these reforms are just the first part. There's a whole lot more coming at us. We've got to stand up, speak out and fight back against what's going on.
All right, because I think it'll probably be a little bit late for this first round of welfare reforms. But Sue Bradford, thanks very much for coming in.